Good morning, students. Today we are here to complete the first chapter of your science book, Crop Production and Management. In the previous period, we had done up to some space, and then we will continue from there. Let us see what we had done on the previous class. So far I remember crop production and management. What are the practices of agriculture? We defined what is food, what is nutrition, what is crop, different types of crops, and then we came to know what is agriculture. And to have a good crop production, good yield, we defined some steps that a farmer must follow, either manual or with machines, to have a good crop. We enumerated 7 steps and we discussed the first 3 in the previous class. That is preparation of soil, sowing seeds, and adding manure and fertilizers. And we also defined the advantages, disadvantages of using manure and fertilizers. Let's have a quick recap of the important part of the previous lesson. Please look at the slides for a minute. Thank you. What is irrigation? Irrigation is the supply of water to crops at different intervals. The time and frequency of irrigation. It varies from crop to crop. Rabi crop needs one kind of irrigation, Kharif crop another. Soil to soil, and also from season to season. Some usual sources of irrigations are, well, tube wells, canals, ponds, etc. Now, there are 2 methods of irrigation. One is traditional method of irrigation and one is modern method. There are usually the 4 kinds of traditional methods of irrigation: moat, chain pump, dhekli, and rahat. And now for the modern modes of, usually there are 2 systems. Sprinkler system. Sprinkler system is done on the uneven land where the lands have ups and downs. It's very useful for fields that have sandy soil a larger water pipes connected to a pump and some perpendicular pipes that rotate nozzles on the top are connected to the main pipes at regular intervals. So it sprinkles as the pipe rotates with the nozzles, the sprinkler rotates and sprinkling water on the crop. And the second method is drip irrigation. This a network of narrow and perforated water pipes with holes laid on the ground. The pipe is connected to a pump which draws water from wells. Water falls slowly drop by drop from the pores of the. This process has two advantages. It minimizes the wastage of water, and also water is always available to the roots in the optimum amount. Now we come to the next part of crop production. Some undesirable plants that harm the main crop. Undesirable plants that may grow naturally along with the crops and harm its growth are called weed. We must systematically remove these weeds. This process is called weeding. And apart from weeds, there are also some animals like rodents, insects like termites, also some fungus that harm our crop. So we must take proper precautions like giving pesticides. Pesticides are those chemicals to control pests, for example, malathion. Insecticides used to control insects. BHG, it is commonly known as gamaxin, and also malathion. Rodenticides like rats, etc. It's used to control rodents such as mice. For example, zinc phosphide, warfarin, etc. and fungicide. Fungicide are chemicals to use to kill fungi. For example, aggression and sedation. Now, insecticides or these things can be sprayed simply by hand-operated machines, pumping, like pitchkari you have seen, or by low-flying aircraft, particularly in the countries like USA, where the land holdings are very large. So, these are the method of weeding the field and controlling the pests. Now, after 3 or 4 months of hard work, the farmers come to the final part, the most enjoyable part. If their labor becomes success, everybody is happy. The cutting of crop after it is mature, usually after 3 to 4 months. This is called harvesting. Now after harvesting, separating the grain seeds from the harvested crop, separating it from the stalks, it is called the threshing. And this process, another, that is separating the grains from the sap, it is called winnowing. More or less both are the same processes. This can be done either manually or mechanically. In our country, special festivals related with the harvest season in India. Sometimes we forget that actually this festival was like Chhath, like Holi. That these were actually harvest festival because there are lots of kind of crops these days. But originally all these festivals, Pongal, Baisakhi, Bihu, Holi, Diwali, all were harvest festivals. Now, once the crop is harvested and what has to be consumed has been consumed, what has been sold. But there are a lot of extra crop because agriculture is mass production, we remember. So we must protect it with proper storage of what was extra for the future use. We must have protection from moisture, pests like insects, rats, etc. Also microorganisms like bacteria, fungi, etc. So what to use? In traditional way for small holdings, you have seen kothis in your village, but in modern mass scale production, we use cold storage, large mechanical silos like constructions like this. So now we come to the next part. Rearing animals. We also get food from animal sources. So we sometimes rear animals on very large scale for food items like milk, eggs, meat, fish, honey. And when we do it on large scale, we call it animal husbandry. In common words, animal is used as crop. For example, dairy farming. Dairy farming is done to produce milk. And you know, in our country, we are self-sufficient in milk production. We call it white revolution. In the same way, if we cultivate fish on a large scale in the ponds, it is called pisciculture. And we are also self-sufficient in fish production, and we call it silver revolution. Poultry farming is done, you have seen it a lot in your area, to produce both egg and meat of chicken. And sometimes to produce honey, we do apiculture, that is honey bees. We keep artificial beehives to produce honey. So, we come to the concluding part. We have already discussed about the plant, food we get from plant, which is called agriculture. But there are also some food we get from animals, you know, meat, egg, fish, honey. And these animal products can also be made into like a crop production, mass production system. So we also cultivate fish in certain condition in the ponds, in the rivers. And we call the cultivation of fish, that is fish production. We call it pisciculture. In the same way, we artificially create beehives and keep honey bee with them. It is a kind of agriculture in a sense. We call it apiculture. In the same way, eggs can be produced, meat can be produced through poultry. All these are categorized as animal husbandry. So our food production is actually of two types. Actual agriculture of plant products and also animal husbandry, that is. And you know, our country has gone through several phases of being independent on food. We call this, you have heard these words, and many questions will be asked. So let us briefly tell about these three words: Green Revolution, Blue Revolution, and White Revolution. Revolution is Kranti. Harit Kranti, Nila Kranti, and Shwet Kranti. Actually, when our country got sufficient in agriculture, we produce so much grains, food grains, that we became sufficient. We need not any other country's help in that department. We call that massive production Green Revolution. In the same way, our country is now sufficient in milk production, and this change is in the scale of production. We call it White Revolution. And in this another term, Blue Revolution, that is used for fish production. That so much fish we are producing every day through a plant cultivation of fish, pisciculture. We call it Blue Revolution. These are the major terms that you should also learn at this stage. So we have come to the end of the first chapter of your science book. We will very soon come back in the second chapter. In the meantime, again I am reminding you, go through the book. There is no alternative to reading the book because it will enhance your subject knowledge and also make you a master of using the English language itself, which is very important. And also do the exercises we provide you through the WhatsApp in the PDF form. Do the exercises all. Stay home, stay safe and utilize this time. We'll meet very soon for the second chapter. Till then, thank you.